Algeld Gardens is an isolated public housing project located in southeast Chicago, constructed in 1948 to house African American World War II veterans. The housing development shows a clear sign of environmental racism and economic discrimination in the United States. Algeld Gardens is situated in an area known as the Toxic Donut. This area includes polluting industries, landfills, incinerators, smelters, steel mills, chemical companies, paint manufacturing plants, and a municipal sewage treatment facility. Not only is Algeld Gardens surrounded by polluting companies, but also by 50 abandoned toxic waste sites. People became aware of the environmental hazards of their living conditions towards the late 70s. Fed up with the air quality issue, Hazel Johnson established one of the first public housing grassroots environmental programs called the People for Community Recovery, or simply PCR. PCR contacted city and state departments to receive facts about the environmental quality of the project. They then conducted their own community health surveys to record the disease rate of residences. Compared to other areas in Chicago, Algeld Gardens was found to have the highest incidence of cancer than any other community in Chicago. PCR's work has helped shut down some toxic sites around the area. The travesty is that the Chicago Housing Authority was aware of these environmental conditions, but neglected to notify Algeld Garden residents about the issues.
My name is Cheryl Johnson. I'm the Executive Director of People for Community Recovery. We are a community-based, grassroots environmental justice organization located in Algeld Gardens. Our organization is to find solutions to some of the environmental inequities that is in our community that affect the quality of life of residents who live in urban cities that are polluted. We organize around the issue of health, housing, education, and safety. Algeld Gardens is unique in its position because it's an area that is isolated from the rest of the city of Chicago, and it was built in the late 1940s for the returned veterans of World War II. So you have to have veteran status in order to live in Algeld. The areas that we serve is the greater metropolitan areas of the city of Chicago, but we network with organizations locally and nationally. People for Community Recovery was founded by my mother, Hazel Johnson, who passed away last year, January 2011. She founded this organization June of 1979 to challenge some of the infrastructure problems that we have in public housing back in the late 70s, early 80s. And she found out that our area is one of the highest environmental problems due to multimedia exposure, air, water, and land. And from the history of it being a dumping ground since 1863. So she labeled our community the Toxic Donut. It's like the community is in the center of the donut, and outside the parameter of the donut is 50 documented landfills and over 382 pollutant facilities.
We will not allow Warren County to become a dump site.
In 1973, 31,000 gallons of polychlorinated biphenyl was dumped in Warren County, North Carolina. Warren County had the highest number of African Americans in all North Carolina, 75%, and 20% were below federal poverty line.
I don't want this stuff thrown in my water.
We're marching because we do not want this to affect our future.
If you do not cease this unlawful act, you will be arrested.
In fear of the water being contaminated by the waste, the people began organizing protests against the construction of the landfill, bringing forth the environmental justice movement. This attracted civil rights groups across the nation, bringing national attention to environmental racism through nonviolent direct action.
State officials said they had no choice but to make the arrests if they were going to move the people out of the way and get the trucks in here.
All right, come on, let's move.
One protester jumped in front of the first truck and was quickly hustled away. In all, 10 trucks arrived for the first dumping. As they unloaded the PCB soil in the landfill, state and federal officials defended the decision to stop protesters and to store PCB here.
We were hoping that we were going to have, of course, just a protest, but you witnessed the fact that there was an attempt to obstruct, which we simply could not allow to continue.
We feel very confident that we built a facility that is going to work the way in which it was intended, and we intend to just carry this project out to its completion.
The Warren County Toxic Waste Landfill is not safe, it's not state-of-the-art, and it would never be approved by any governmental environmental agency in the United States.
After many years of protesting and fighting, the soil treatment was completed in 2003. But the fight continues for environmental justice all across the nation.
Money is what's created the environmental injustice, because when people see dollars, they have less thought about the impact that their projects have on people.
Hurricane Katrina was one of the most devastating tragedies to hit the U.S. and left millions without a home. This tragedy brought to light the effect of environmental racism that continued to exist in the United States. In 2005, New Orleans was one of the poorest states in the U.S., with 28% of the population living in poverty, over 2 times the national poverty rate, and 84% of whom were blacks. Thousands of minorities were unable to leave New Orleans. The government was unprepared for the thousands of stranded residents and refugees throughout New Orleans, and rescue was a slow process. The aftermath of the hurricane left thousands without food, water, medical supplies, or shelter. With no way of communication, FEMA did not know where critical help was needed.
There. The people I see, these are people, Paula, let me explain, who are people of limited resources. These are people who did not have the wherewithal to get out of town. They didn't have cars. There's no way they could pay for a hotel room. They stayed in their houses because they had to. And then the water came up, and I'm sure there were elderly here, there were infirm here. It's just horrific.
Mayor Ray Nagin said, "Every day that we delay, people are dying, and they're dying by the hundreds."
I hate the way they portray us in the media. If you see a black family, it says they're looting. See a white family, it says they're looking for food, and you know.
With so many people without transportation, and so many of them being people of color, and many living below the poverty line, thousands of people were left in the hurricane's direct line of fire without the necessary supplies.